Hello, spooky friends, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Scariest Podcast.
Woo!
Hopefully, I didn't make that sound weird.
No, I think it sounded all right.
Accenty. I don't know.
My voice isn't doing too well, so I know my woo wasn't too good. So
Been having too many balls in your mouth.
Yeah, or it's all the wonderful people in the Disneyland, or the California Adventure, because we were there this past weekend for some family fun time, which was fun. It was a good time, and I got.
Would you say it was a fun time?
Yes, I would say that indeed. I got to go on the Incredicoaster, and anytime I get to do that, Disney is not sponsoring this, but the Incredicoaster is the fucking shit. I love that roller coaster. It's amazing.
It's just like any other roller coaster.
It has a loop-de-loop in it, and I haven't been on a good roller coaster in a really long time. I've been on some okay roller coasters, but not anything like the Incredicoaster. So it's like my favorite thing in that park. So I was having a good old time.
Cool.
But right on.
The Guardians is growing on me.
The Guardians is a good time. You go waitlist, so it's definitely scary, and you handled it a lot better this time than you did the first time, where you were panicked, but still smiling. I will give that to you. You did still smile that first time.
Yeah.
So,
well, okay. All right. So
did we introduce ourselves at all?
Oh, I'm Robin Grace, and this is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And we're going to start off the episode like we usually do and read you guys some homegrown horror, which is stories about paranormal experiences that you guys have had and are kind enough to share with us.
Indeed. And if you want to share your story with us, you can email storytime@scarish.com. You can also go to facebook.com/scarishpodcast and message us. Please click like on that page. You can join the Scarish Spooky Friends group. It's linked from our Facebook page for those of you who didn't realize. And you get some instant feedback if you post it there from the community. You can also join us on Discord. The best way to do that, go to scarish.com, scroll down on the right-hand side, you'll see something that says join us on Discord. Click that. You can also tweet at us at ScarishPod, and you can message us on Instagram, and that is at ScarishPodcast. That is the best ways for you to reach out to us. A lot of you guys have been reaching out to us on Instagram, too, so I'm really happy that we have that platform.
Yeah, we're not as active on... our stories are active. Our actual posting is not as active, but hopefully you guys will still...
Yeah. It's not bad, but you guys are very interactive, and we appreciate that, so keep on sending us messages. But yeah, those are good ways for you to get your stories to us, so I believe you're going to go first this week.
Yep. Okay, so my email here goes, Hey guys.
Hello.
Hello. I am a new listener, just started last week, which was...
2.5 months ago?
Yep, 2.5 months ago. It's been quite a while. I found your hopefully you're still listening. I found your podcast on Spotify on my way to work. I have to drive sometimes 2 hours to get to my job site. That is so far.
That is a long drive.
I'm a photographer. Well, that explains that you got to go where you got to go. And your podcast keeps me entertained and awake, which is good. Stay alive.
Yeah, please stay alive. Please stay awake. Please keep listening.
Maybe a little freaked out. That's how we're keeping you awake.
Yeah, we scare you awake, so that helps sometimes. Like that Scared Straight show from like back in the 70s, for those of you who've seen it. Probably no one that's listening to this, but maybe a few of you.
As sometimes I do leave my house before the sun rises. I recently listened to an episode that you guys shared a story about dolls. Well, let me tell you some creepy shit. I was about 10 or 11, and I was at my friend's house. She had a small collection of porcelain dolls. To give you a layout of her room, the bed was on the back wall where your head would be against the wall, and you have a space on either side to get off the bed. To the left of the bed was her dresser, which was an older and rather large dresser with a shelf at the top. Across from that, on the right side of the bed, was her desk. Her porcelain dolls sat on the top shelf of the drawer. All right, that makes sense. As long as there's no mirrors. She had this one particular doll called the quote-unquote Ice Princess. It was Elsa.
I was going to say, did it want to build a snowman, or did it say, no, go away?
No, she said, let it go. Looking at this doll would send chills down your spine. It's as if she's looking into your soul. Anyway, one day I was lying on my friend's bed, and my friend was standing facing her desk. For some reason, I became fixated on this doll, and I noticed her face and head were turned toward me, seemingly looking back at me. I felt like she was staring me down. After a few minutes, I became creeped out and rolled to the right side of the bed. A few more minutes passed, and I rolled back over to see this fucking doll had turned to face my friend.
That's super
nope.
creepy if you are in the room with it and you know no one has walked up to turn that thing's head. It's like maybe it's a nanny cam and it's automatically adjusting, but if it's inside a porcelain doll,
think so.
I'm guessing it's more likely a demon. So
I told my friend, and she put the doll in her closet facing the wall. Afterwards, she tells me that sometimes she feels like she's being pinched at night and thinks it's her doll.
That's super fucking creepy.
And 10-year-old me is like, bitch, isn't that something you disclose before I stay at your house with your demon doll? No, because she needs friends. How else are you going to come over?
Yeah, you disclose that after your friends. Like, that's just something you have to do if you want to make friends and you're surrounded by demon dolls.
I wish that were the only time that this has happened, but it isn't. She also had another doll that sat on top of the dresser, and this one was plastic and had a pink dress. She was a little larger than the other dolls, and she was on a stand. Out of the corner of my eye, I see something at the top of her dresser moving. I look up to see this doll rocking back and forth on her stand, and then she stops. I turn away, and I can see through the corner of my eye that she's doing it again.
Have you ever considered maybe this is a Toy Story type of place, and they're actually really friendly, and it just sucks really badly having to sit still for that long, and they're like, oh my God,
Maybe.
my quads are cramping.
I don't think any of the toys were ever like, this feels horrible. Because it's like they're made of stuffing and stuff. I don't know.
That pig, I can't remember what his name is right now.
Ham.
Ham, yeah. He's a piggy bank, essentially, right? He's not like a full-blown toy. He's probably made of porcelain, so I feel like that's the same thing.
Maybe. I faced her, and she stopped. I tried to rationalize it by thinking maybe the washer or dryer was running, and it shook the wall a little bit. I grew up in a trailer, and that would typically happen. But alas, my friend lived in a one-story brick home with no basement or attic, and the laundry room was on the other side of the house. In another previous episode, Dave mentioned that he was nice to stuffed... Oh, you're Dave. I'm going to assume...
No one never gets my name right anymore.
So Adam mentioned that he was nice to stuffed animals and dolls, just in case. And I totally feel him on that because I am sure plenty of other people do the same thing. I love your podcast and I love listening to you guys as you remind me of my fiance and I.
Aw.
That's very sweet of you.
I hope so.
If you ever choose to do a story about the Bermuda Triangle, I have a shorter story my grandpa once told me when he lived in Florida. Ooh, I totally want to hear that one. The Bermuda Triangle is just so cool.
It's fascinating.
Stay spooky, Caitlin. Side note, I'm from Alabama, just so you guys know how far you're reaching. Wow. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
We appreciate that. And I will say about that whole like being nice to stuffed animals and dolls, I still do that. We went out to California 2 weeks ago, I think it was. And we had an Airbnb. We got in there and there was like a little stuffed animal on one of the beds, and it was the bed that I was going to be sleeping on. I think
every bed had a stuffed animal on it, actually, because there was like there was a bear in yours and then a bear in the other one, and I as soon as I saw it, I was just like, I'm just gonna put you on this shelf over here, because I was like, I'm not gonna sleep with it. That's weird.
Yeah, I put mine on a shelf, but I made sure it was comfortable, and then when we would leave to go and have our fun, like I would put it back on the bed, and then one of the people who was staying in the room with us went back early. So we had a free bed in this Airbnb, so I was letting the bear that was in my bed sleep. I was tucking it in at night just so it would know, like, hey, we're friends. Please don't wake up in the middle of the night and kill me. So, yeah, Robin said I was weird for that. But, hey, you know what? You can never be too careful. That's all I'm saying.
That's true.
So I'm going to move on to mine. And this subject is captured plus topic suggestion. And it starts out like this. Hello, Robin and Grace. Then it says in parentheses, just kidding. Hello to you too. Adam, is it? LOL.
That's funny.
I am not LOLing. Hello. This is Ari again from India.
Hello.
Hello. I don't know why it never occurred to me to share this story with you all, so here we go now. It's something that happened to my mom at work, and I hope you guys find it interesting. A couple months ago, my mom returned from work and showed me this picture. It's attached, which I will now open.
Looks like a face.
It looks like a dude. It looks like a selfie of a guy taken from below. Who has a mustache and a weird bulbous nose and has his eyes closed and like short cropped hair. But it's hard to tell because it's like blurry. And it looks like it has a shadow behind it, like a shadow being cast from a flash or something like that. So that's the picture that was sent along. It says, this blurry image of a man in a dark room that first off kind of freaked me out because I couldn't even make out that there was a face for the first few seconds that I set my eyes upon it.
Okay.
Okay. On questioning what it was, she told me that she was sitting in her seat that day at work when, out of whim, she took out her phone to take a selfie. Sigh. She then clicked her photo with the rear camera positioned in front of her face, so the screen was facing the other side. After doing that, she checked her phone to see how the picture turned out, but all she saw was the image of this man.
Fuck.
So she's trying to take a selfie. She doesn't even capture the image of herself. She just captures a dark image of like
really
a person.
Creepy.
It was weird, firstly, because the picture is so dark and blurry for something that was taken during afternoon hours, not to forget her workspace was always well lit and clear. Besides, who would take pictures in the dark anyways? That's a good point.
You'd be surprised. Concerts, clubs.
That's true, but there's usually at least some source of bright light. Secondly, I asked if anyone was there with her at the time who might have accidentally appeared in the frame, but she replied that no one was there. Being a skeptic myself, I repeatedly asked her if she was certain about the details, and she seemed sure about her answers. As dickish as this sounds, I ultimately assumed my mom was trolling me with a faker-daker. I don't know what that is. It's in quotations, and it says, so I brushed it off. That was until she started sharing this experience in the photo with her friends while seeming quite serious about it, and I kind of started believing her. Sometimes when you hear someone tell their story, like, you just sort of, like, believe them because you can tell they're not lying, you know?
Right.
Whether or not it was, like, natural causes is a weird way to say it. Like, maybe, like, someone took a selfie on her phone when she didn't know it, and when she went to take a selfie of herself, it didn't work. You know, so when she went to check our pictures, it was like something from before. I have an uncle who, anytime he sees someone's phone laying around, and before that, whenever he saw someone's camera laying around, like at a wedding or whatever, he would just pick it up and take a picture of himself. People do that all the time. Yeah, so it's like something that ran through my head when I was reading this. And then the email goes on to say, however, I don't know what to make of this photo yet and how it came about, but I often hear you guys saying that there needs to be some kind of evidence to back up supernatural claims. So I hope here's one. In parentheses, that's or cool. Not, it's up to the audience to decide.
Yeah,
that is very
really
true.
Is, yeah.
Side note, the watchman at my mom's office has often been scared to stay out for night duty in the past, as he's claimed that there are spirits in the building, in parentheses,
that's creepy.
Particularly in the basement, but no one has ever believed him. I'll leave you guys with that, and I'd love to hear your opinion on it, so I think we shared it pretty well.
Yeah.
Once again, love the podcast. I'm hooked on it like a drug and probably have re-listened to all the episodes over tens of times. Wow.
We're very glad.
We appreciate your dedication. Plus, as a topic suggestion, I was wondering if you guys could do an episode on Isla de las Muñecas. I know I said that wrong. Or Island of the Dolls. I've heard of this before. We've actually been recommended this a lot. It's a tourist destination in Xochimilco, Mexico. Thank you so much for the phonetic pronunciation there. It's just what it sounds like, a small island littered with dolls, in parentheses, probably haunted too, as some tourists have reported spotting dolls with moving eyes and limbs.
Dolls are just scary, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of dolls in this episode so far. I think it would make a very creepy and cool topic if you guys want to consider it. Until then, thank you for your amazing work. I will support you guys always with much love.
Oh,
Ari.
thank you. Thank you so much.
We really appreciate that. That's a really good story too, because I can totally understand like trying to take a selfie and it not coming out right, but when you have an image that, like, when we looked at it, it very clearly looks like a selfie of a dude. Yeah, right. Without a doubt.
Well,
and
I don't
it looks
know
like
if
there's a mustache.
It looks like it was taken like accidentally, like when you take a picture accidentally of yourself and you're like, Jesus, that looks horrible.
And it's definitely blurry as hell. It's like, even if you like smudge the lens, it wouldn't. I don't even think it would be that blurry. It looks like it's being shot through like cellophane or something.
Well, if it were taken in the dark, then I could see why it's blurry, because your phone can't capture like all the details because it's so dark.
Yeah, and it can't focus because it only like flashes and then it's just like capturing whatever's in the frame. So I don't know. Thank you for sending that in, and I appreciate that your mom shared that with you. So don't make her feel too bad, because if she's telling the story and you think she's telling the truth, then it's something that you should at least support and be like, I'll be skeptical, but I'll listen to what you have to say.
Yeah.
So awesome. I think that's just about it for the Homegrown Horrors for the episode. So before we move on into the next part, which is the topics of the episode, I do want to mention that I took a nice relaxing bath over the past week, and I used the Scariest bath bomb for the first time ever.
What color was it?
It was green. It was Ecto Cooler. I took a bunch of pictures, but I have to go in there and edit it and figure out how to post it to our story on Instagram. But I will say it smelled like cereal that I'm not going to name, because you guys are going to have to figure that out for yourself if you buy one. And it turned green. And I'm pretty sure the owner of Modern Physics told us too that when they were making those, it's going to be a different color for each one.
Which
right?
I think is really cool.
I think it's awesome. But yeah, I tossed it in there and the logo turned into a bunch of green fizz. It was like bathing in Ecto Cooler. So it was pretty fucking sweet. It was just like a dream come true.
What's Ecto Cooler?
Ecto Cooler, I hate you so much. Is this drink that was released with Slimer's face on it back when Ghostbusters first came out. It tasted delicious. That's what I felt like I was taking a bath in. It was amazing. I did drop.
Did you drink it?
Soak, and I did relax.
Oh.
I didn't put my head underneath to drink it. No, I did not. I might not have died, but I didn't want to try and drown myself just because it looked so cool. But it was amazing. So if you guys want to go over to modernphysics.com and check that out, we do have Scarish themed bath bombs on there that are made by the wonderful people at Modern Physics, plus a bunch of other stuff. We have like a sugar scrub, right?
So yeah, they do have bath salts. They had a sugar scrub that they sent us to try, which is awesome. So yeah, definitely check it out. I did the Soul Noir one, and it was dark and sparkly and amazing. I loved how glittery it was.
I had no idea it
so
was
good.
glittery until you dropped it in and I heard you like being super happy, like, it's so shiny.
Yeah, it was so... I just wanted my cat to lay in the tub afterwards and get all glittery.
That's so funny. My next bath, which I plan out now because we have a bunch of these samples, is going to be Blizzara, which is a spell from Final Fantasy, which just shows you like the level of awesomeness that modern physics is dealing with here. And right now, if you go over to modernphysics.com, which is spelled Fizzix, you can get 30% off your order if you use the promo code BASEMENT. So go ahead and go over there. It's going to be a great way for you to pick up some really nice, really high quality, really affordable gifts for the holidays coming up. Or if you just want to treat yourself, you can do that too. So head over to modernphysics.com. Right on. So I guess we can move into our topics now. So if you want to go ahead and take the lead, you can start us out.
All right. So this week I chose to do the Selkie. And I came across this mythical creature recently and was a bit confused at first because I got confused between Selkie from Durarara, and happily though, these are totally different things. And many of you guys seem to like fun legends and legendary creatures, so I figured it'd be a really good choice to go over. And they've appeared in a whole bunch of different things. I don't think they've ever covered it in Supernatural,
So
but
quick question, what's Durarara?
it's that anime with the chick with the motorcycle that wears the yellow
the one
helmet.
who doesn't have a head, the Headless
Yes.
Horseman one?
Yeah.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
So they do appear in a couple different things, like D&D, if you so choose to have them in your D&D game. And then Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. The Selkie are like a clan of warriors that are like the fastest warriors.
That is awesome.
Who wear fur.
Crystal Chronicles is the one where you have to carry like the pot with your party at all times to keep the smoke from killing you, right?
There's a bunch of different Crystal Chronicles.
I think that might have been the one on
5
GameCube
of
that I'm
them.
thinking of. I don't know if it's just called Crystal Chronicles, if there's like a specific name, but
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. But I don't know. All I know is they're in all the Crystal Chronicle games. So Selkies are also known as Selkie folk or seal folk. Kind of a spoiler, so sorry everybody.
I'm excited to hear about it now.
Because they're seal people. It's like that dolphin person before. I'm all about those animal-human hybrids.
The animal-human hybrids is pretty creepy, actually. We should do one on orcs since they're like supposed to be pig humans, right?
Are they like real, or are they just from World of Warcraft?
I mean, they're from Lord of the Rings as well, and that's a documentary. I'm pretty sure I've watched it a bunch. So
Okay. Sure. They're found in Scottish folklore from Orkney and Shetland. I'm saying them wrong, I'm sure.
We apologize. Anyone who wants to correct our pronunciation, go ahead and do it the normal way.
Something I find interesting is that according to Orcadian folklore, they're more like shapeshifters, whereas in Shetland, they're more like mermaids or mermen, but not exactly, because there's like a whole thing with Finn folk.
Isn't that something that we noticed too in that dolphin hybrid that we did before, is that they were able to transform into people and then like bang the ladies too?
I don't know if they turned into complete humans. I just
then we had
maybe
some
they
just
did.
really dolphin enthusiasts down where these things
That's
are
why I'm like trying to remember if I just made a joke about like a dolphin walking out of I don't know. I don't remember. But this one is definitely about seal people. I might have to do an actual mermaid episode in the future because there are so many aspects about mermaids that I find interesting, and the fact that these Selkies are completely different than mermaids is really cool. At least to me, I'm a weirdo and like humans that are half animal, half human, apparently. Selkies are not what you'd imagine. Like, they are not the Little Mermaid type creatures. They're supposed to be seals, like cute, adorable seals, just a little bigger than normal, that shed their skin when they want to climb on land in order to take their human form. So the Scots word for Selkie, according to the internet, comes from selk, which means gray seal. If there are any Scots out there that have any answers or any other idea of where the term Selkie actually comes from, let us know, because
we always appreciate that background.
Yeah, and the internet says a lot of things, but you can't really believe everything you read on the internet. So there seems to be a bit of a difference between, like I said, the Selkie and the Finfolk, and a difference between seal people and fish people have to be pretty big, right? It's a little weird, but you know. I just
don't know the hierarchies, like within, or like the people who are supposed to be like the ones in charge, the cool group. Like, I wouldn't know what to do.
I feel like maybe okay, I'll get into it later because I was like, wait, well, but it's gonna give away. Okay, we'll get there together. So the Selkie story generally goes to the tune of a Selkie ending up with a human, and there's one tale that says a man steals a female Selkie's skin when he finds her naked on the beach and kind of blackmails her into becoming his wife, like captures her because she can't go anywhere without her skin. And I just wonder what the attraction is. Like, they have to be either ridiculously gorgeous for these people to be assholes.
Or that guy was just a giant dick.
Yeah, or maybe because they're different and they're into the whole seal thing, and maybe it's sort of like kinky.
Or maybe it's like that idea of I can have a slave if I take the thing that lets this creature transform back.
That's
I don't know.
true.
It just sounds like a terrible person who would manipulate a seal folk like that.
Yeah, it just seems a little weird to blackmail a lovely seal into being your wife.
Selkies, let us know what you think if you're in human form right now. Just go ahead and email us before you transform back.
Understandably, his wife longs for life in the ocean because she obviously doesn't
belong on the land.
Right. I'm just thinking of that movie. Is it called Splash?
With Goldie Hawn, where
Yes.
she falls off the boat.
I really like that movie.
It's a really, really good movie.
Really
they remade
good
it with
movie.
Anna Faris, I'm pretty sure.
No. Are you talking about the one where the guy loses his memory and then ends up in a relationship with Anna Faris and all her kids?
Yes, that's the one I'm thinking of.
That is not the same
Because that's
movie.
the one with Goldie Hawn, with Kurt Russell, where she falls off the boat and winds up thinking she's the mom to Kurt Russell's kids and the wife to Kurt Russell, obviously.
Yeah.
What's that one called?
I'm pretty sure.
Overboard?
Overboard.
Damn it. Okay.
Yeah, and
well,
the new one
either
is
way,
also called Overboard, I'm pretty sure.
I really like Overboard. That's what we've learned from all this.
Wait, so do you like Splash or do you like Overboard?
Is Splash the one where it's a mermaid who comes on land, or is that the one
That's
where the mannequins come to life?
Though Splash has what's his name from Tom Hanks. It's Tom Hanks.
I don't remember Splashed.
It's not called Splashed. It's called Splash.
I obviously don't know that because I don't remember it.
Yeah, it has I don't think it's Goldie Hawn either. It's a blonde woman, I don't remember her name. But then it has Tom Hanks and she's a mermaid, and I don't know if he finds her as a mermaid, but I just remember her being in a bathtub and filling the bathtub with water and pouring salt into it so she could like unfurl her fin in the salt water.
Is this the one where he visits the pier and turns into an adult because he goes to that fortune-telling machine and then plays the keyboard with his feet?
Where this is just going to be a huge movie mess. So let's just
And then him and the mermaid
on.
decide to...
We have to watch Splash for the other thing now.
Yeah, very clearly. I'm pretty sure at the end of that movie they decide to be managers of an all-women's baseball team.
No, I'm pretty sure they dissect the mermaid.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
right on. That's good to know. They use her parts to form a human Sentai pad. Tom Hanks isn't in that, but...
Okay. Anyway, understandably, she wants to be in the ocean, and she'll often be seen staring longingly at the sea. And regardless of whether or not she bears children for her husband, as soon as she finds her skin, she up and leaves and returns to the sea. And this, to me, just sounds like a super cold-hearted bitch because
Wow.
I understand that she doesn't love him, but those are her kids, and
I mean,
she has those kids.
She could always come back to them, but maybe it's going to be like a La Lorna?
You're, no.
My Sharona?
La
Llorona situation
No.
where she's going to take her kids
That's
and
not how you say
throw
it.
them in the ocean. There was a recent one, too. Someone posted on the Scarish Friends group where...
Llorona. It's 2 L's in the beginning.
It just sounds weird to me. But yeah, some lady threw her kids in a van and like was driving along the coast, then drove them into the ocean. And
Yes.
like, passerby ran over there
Yeah,
and got
whoever
the kids
posted
out.
that was really crazy.
Yeah, it was
like,
super
oh my
intense.
gosh.
And the entire time, the mom just kept telling the kids in the car, like, it's okay. We're okay. We're
Yeah.
okay.
She must have had a mental breakdown or something.
Or she was a Selkie and she
But-
needed to test to see if her kids would turn into seals when they got to the ocean. Because you never fucking know. We can't judge people when we don't know what their life experiences are.
Okay. I just think it's really weird, and I just don't understand, like, what if those kids were Selkies like herself? It's just like, are you just going to abandon your seal babies? It just doesn't make sense. And so children between humans and seal folk may actually have webbed hands and possibly more. There aren't reports of actually... there were, like, no stories that I read where the kids were also Selkie. But, I mean, how are we supposed to know? There are people that claim to have that lineage of like being born from the, I don't know, relationship, I guess, between a Selkie and a human, which is kind of strange. But the reason why is because they have webbed fingers. And so they say that they're like related because of that. Like they stem from that lineage.
Right. Okay.
Which is really strange. But, you know, to each their own.
Strange. Totally makes sense.
Back in the day when there wasn't really any explanation for why certain things happened, like the web hands, people blamed it on fairies and stuff. So that's probably why it's like they decided this is because fairies or because Selkies. And so you have the one person way back in the day that's like, that's why. And so everyone else is told like, that is why. And so you just grow up thinking like, part Selkie.
It's funny because like you think like way back and all the times where people didn't have a scientific explanation, and you're like, what kind of reasonable explanation would they come up with? And in so many cases, the further back you go, it's something where it's like mystical or magical or
right.
cryptid, and it's all crazy. And then when you read stories like later on where people still claim to see stuff like this, you're like, maybe there was something to that. They were just really mean to people who had like genetic mutations.
Yeah.
But there were also creatures back in the day who were just like, oh wow, those humans are being really mean to those other humans that barely look like me.
Yeah. In these stories, sometimes it's her children that actually discover where her skin is hidden. And in some stories, it's revealed that she has a Selkie husband already.
That dude's got to be pissed. Why
right?
didn't he take off his skin and come find her?
Because then he'd be captured too, probably. A version that I like is that the human doesn't even know that their love is a Selkie until they wake up one day and they've resumed their seal form. Imagine waking up in bed and there's just this giant seal next to you like, what up, girl?
I'd be like, not again. I need to stop drinking.
But I like that version because it's real love and not like a forced blackmail marriage.
Right.
So in Orkney, there seems to have their share of versions of the Selkie wife. And apparently that it's just like a whole bunch of islands. So each island kind of has their own version. And they're thought to be different from Finfolk in that they're gentler. Like they're not, Finfolk are supposed to be like vicious and angry. But the Selkies are supposed to be nicer. Which makes sense. That's why they don't murder the dude that steals their skin.
I was going to say, like, why would you do that to them if they're the nice ones? Like, this is when you'd hope that a Finfolk would show up and murder that guy.
Well, yeah, you never know. And it just makes me wonder why mermaids are so angry. I mean, you are half fish, but still. I need to do an episode on mermaids because now I'm just thinking of mermaids and legs and all this stuff. But we're talking about seals. So
all I can think about is Little Mermaid right now, and I'm singing all the songs in my head.
I hate you. One version of Orcadian lore has a bachelor fall in love with one of the women among the Selkie. So I'm imagining like maybe he sees a whole bunch of Selkie dancing on the shore one day, falls in love with one, and the next time he gets a chance when she's back on land, he steals her skin. So it's just interesting to me.
Even in that romantic comedy of a movie that it could be, it's still blackmail to like get her to stay.
Right.
It's like, I'll give this back to you if you hang out with me.
It doesn't sound like a romantic comedy
Even
whatsoever.
Ryan Reynolds couldn't pull that shit off.
No.
And that dude's the king of romantic comedies.
Yeah, so he steals her skin, and she gets freed once her youngest daughter helps her find her skin. And a version from mainland Orkney has a husband lock her seal skin in a chest. And the wife goes on saying that it's better that way, and it's best that she forget about the ocean, only to go running back to the sea as soon as she finds her skin again. So, you know, people not knowing how to make decisions, I guess.
That's weird.
Like, okay. It's not exactly sure when they're able to change from seal to humans, as it's been thought to be once a year or on every 7th stream, whatever a stream means, or 9th night. So it's not really understood exactly
they can't
when.
Just do it at will.
But yeah, it's not at will. It's like only certain times. And all that's known is that they like to dance on the shores and bathe in the moonlight.
Do they like to eat cake by the ocean is my question.
I totally was going to say, like, do they like pina coladas?
And getting caught in the rain.
Okay, so the Shetland variation follows the main gist of, you know, woman, skin, getting married, having children, all that fun stuff. Except the Selkie already has a fellow Selkie as a mate. And there are stories of Selkies luring men into the sea during midsummer, and those men never returning to land. So that reminds me more of the mermaid thing, like sirens or something.
And payback is a bitch in that case, because it's like they're looking for, I don't know, revenge, or maybe they're just looking for information, and if they don't have information, they're like, you're of no use to us, they get rid of them. I don't know.
Maybe. I wonder if maybe Selkies just mate with humans in order to create more Selkies, but then again, it's like, it says that the children only grow webbed fingers and maybe toes, who knows? Maybe they're just really good swimmers. But it's I don't know why they do this. I want to know. I want to know why it is that Selkies are all up in the humans' business.
My dad has a web toe. Just interesting fun fact. He's not a Selkie. Like, he got into a car accident, and
I was gonna say, isn't that like
his toe got
medically
shattered, and they had to sew his toe to another toe because they weren't able to fix it after like a year of putting pins in it. So, maybe
crazy.
now he's like a cyborg Selfie because it's been like genetically engineered.
Cyborg. But there's no electronics in there.
You never know that. I'm not sure exactly like what they did to get that thing sewed to the other one. Probably just a needle and thread, but
glue. In the Shetland stories, there seems to be a concept of a quote-unquote sea dress, and the sea dress is the seal skin, and it allows the Selkie to transform into a seal in order to travel, but is absolutely one of a kind and irreplaceable. And then there's the story of Gioga's son. That's probably saying it wrong because I have no idea how to pronounce any of these words. And in this tale, some fishermen clubbed and skinned a group of seals, and these seals were actually Selkie. And so the blood of the Selkie caused the water to rush in, leaving one fisherman stranded. And so the seal folk took their human forms, but without their skins, they could no longer return to the sea. And so a Selkie by the name of Gioga was a mother of one of those skin seals, and struck a deal with that fisherman. And she said that she would return him to the land if he returned the skin. Couldn't they have just killed him and taken the skin from him?
That's the first thing I thought of too. It's like, this seems like they're being overly nice. Like,
but I think that's why it's like the Selkie are gentler than the
mermaids.
Finn folk. Yeah,
because the Finn folk would be like, we're gonna fucking murder you, and then we're gonna take our skins back, and then we're just gonna go kill some extra people for funsies.
Maybe they're just murderous. Like, what do you call a group of mermaids? You know how like you call a group of crows a murder? I was trying to think of something clever, but I'm doomed.
I thought you were going to go with the murder thing. I was waiting for it to come.
It seems like a little too much to just be that nice and be like, oh yeah, I'll take you to land just to have this given back. Like, where could he hide it? You know what I mean? He's stranded. But, you know, whatever. Bonus stories that I think I like way more than the others so far aren't from either of those places that they seem to originate from, but in the Faroe Islands, Faroe, there are two versions of the story of the quote-unquote seal wife. One goes, a young farmer from the town of Micladalur on Kalsoy Island.
That sounded good. I like that one.
Thank you. Research. Goes to the beach to watch the Selkies dance. He hides the skin of a beautiful Selkie maid so she can't go back to the sea and forces her to marry him like a dickhead. And he keeps her skin in a chest and keeps the key with him both day and night. One day when he went out fishing, he discovers that he's forgotten to bring his key. And when he returns home, the Selkie wife has escaped back to the sea, leaving their children behind. Later, when the farmer is out on a hunt, he kills both her Selkie husband and two Selkie sons, and she promises to take revenge upon the men of Micladalur. And so she says, some shall be drowned, some shall fall from the cliffs and slopes, and this shall continue until so many men have been lost that they will be able to link arms around the whole island of Kalsoy.
Good Lord. That's a lot of dead bodies.
There are still occasional deaths occurring in this way on that island.
That's fucking creepy.
Yeah.
That's super fucking creepy. So this is a curse that was placed on these particular group of men on that island.
Seems like it. And that's why I was like, I like this more than the others, because that guy was a dick.
And they deserve to die.
And then Peter Kagan and The Wind by Gordon Buck tells of a fisherman named Kagan who married a seal woman. And against his wife's wishes, he set sail dangerously late in the year and was trapped battling a terrible storm, unable to return home. His wife shifted to her seal form and saved him, even though this meant that she could never return to her human body and hence her happy home.
That's super romantic.
It is very romantic, but very sad. But I just like those stories way more than the other ones because I like the fact that she loves him and is going to go save him.
Or the other one where she's like, I will fucking murder all of you.
It's the perfect mix. Children's versions have their mother return to visit her children once a year. And they may even see a big seal come and approach them to greet them. But most of the time, she's never seen by them again. And it's really depressing to think that she's just like, fuck my kids. I don't even... Oh, wait, not literally.
I was going to say, yeah.
No, forget
That's
my
creepy.
kids. I don't care. I'm going back to the sea. And these children's versions are just so irritating because it's like, give those children false hope. Fake happy endings.
The children's versions remind me of that movie with the
Little
wolf
Mermaid?
kids. No, not Little Mermaid. The one where the
Wolf Children?
Wolf Children. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's literally called Wolf
That
Children.
one's so sad. It's Miyazaki. Is that how you say it?
It's not a Miyazaki movie, actually.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, but it is a very good movie. So, continuing on, male Selkies are supposedly very handsome humans and are very good at seducing human women. And they aim for dissatisfied and unhappy women. So, I'm just saying, you guys should take care of your ladies or they're just going to be seduced by Selkies.
Yeah. You gotta take care of the women or they're gonna go get that good seal dick. So be very
Ew.
careful.
Ew. What a seal. Ew. There's a popular tale about a woman named Ursula. It's not her actual
I knew
name.
It all connects.
It's not her actual name,
Shared universe.
but it's rumored that whenever she wanted to make contact with her male Selkie, she would have to shed 7 tears into the sea.
Was he a poor, unfortunate soul?
She seems like one. It seems really specific to have to shed exactly 7 tears into the sea. But it's supposed to be like calling them. So if you want to call one of the male Selkies, you cry 7 tears into the sea, and then they can stash their skins and come and meet you.
Is it 1 tear for each sea since there's supposed to be 7 seas?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's pretty smart, actually. The idea of 7 is just very common because it's like, cry 7 tears. I'll be back on the seventh stream, whatever that means. So 7 plays a prominent role in things.
Right.
But it just seems really specific to me. It is an interesting thing, though, having the 7 C's. I would have never thought of that. That's really smart.
Thank you.
I didn't even...
I have my moments.
Okay. But yeah, folktales always have strange specifics and strange stories and ideas, and I just think that's really cool. Selkie and seal folklore does appear across different cultures, including Sweden and Iceland, not just Scotland, but it seems to be more prominent in the Scottish tales. And I'm totally not surprised that these tales are kind of popular, considering mermaids are such a popular icon. And I totally know that they're different, they're not the same thing, but it's like a seal that can turn into a person. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's still pretty
I
similar.
mean, it's no
type of stuff.
dolphin, dude, but still.
I don't know. I kind of like the seals better than dolphins.
What?
I know seals are adorable. Dolphins seem like they're too intelligent to like me. I feel like they'd be judging me if I tried to hang out with a dolphin. So if a seal transformed into a human, I feel like they'd give me more of a chance. Because seals are like the puppies of the sea, right?
Are they, or is that otters? No, wait. It is seals. Can you make a seal sound?
No, I'm not going to try. Not with my throat as trashed as it is.
Well, my throat is trash, and I've been talking this whole time.
Here's my seal sound. Seal. Oh, no.
Oh, that's a Pokemon.
Fuck, I should sing Kissed by a Rose. Opportunity missed. Son of a bitch.
What is that? I don't know what
It's a
that is.
singer named Seal, and Kissed by a Rose is his most popular song. Have you never heard of Seal?
No.
How have you never heard of Seal? He's the guy that has he's a very handsome black guy, but he has a craggy face. He's married to Heidi Klum. Or he was. I don't know if he's still married to her.
I've never heard of him.
Wow, that's insane.
Okay, so bonus creature feature. There is an Australian made-for-TV movie that came out in 2000 called Selkie, and it looks so cheesy. Like the picture that's on IMDb is literally like a seal in the ocean. It looks like just a picture of a seal in the ocean, and then faded above the seal is like a picture of a girl. It's like a young girl and a boy like sitting next to each other, and it's just faded in on the cover on top of this just picture of a seal. And I was just like, this looks absolutely horrible. But it has a 6.5 out of 10, so it can't be that horrible.
Is it like a romantic comedy, or is it a horror movie?
It's about a kid who who has to move because his mom gets a job somewhere else at a marine research facility or something. And then he starts to grow webbed fingers and stuff and learns that he comes from a line of Selkie lineage. It's very interesting. You guys should watch it. I don't know.
Someone else should watch this and let us know if it's good or bad.
Yeah, our Australian friends, have you guys seen this? Please let us know if it's actually good. Now, it's not sure exactly where Selkies come from, like what they are originally, like are they aliens? But it's thought that they are fairies or angels that have been forced to live in the ocean. Like they were banished to the ocean.
Could they be night elves, like in World of Warcraft? Oh, wait, that's the Naga. Never mind. Keep going.
Okay. Some say that it's the spirits of those who've drowned, kind of like Orlando Bloom in Pirates.
Wow. Spoilers.
Where they're allowed one day a year to come out to the sea and step on land.
Isn't his shit one day every 10 years?
It's every 9 years.
Ugh, that's a long time.
It is a long time. Imagine only getting to see Keira Knightley once every 9 years.
I feel like that's how it is nowadays because she's not in a lot of films. Burn on Keira Knightley. Also, Keira Knightley hit me up. I'm sorry. I'd like to apologize to you in person.
Orlando Bloom hit me up. We can make this work.
I hate you so much.
Anyway, regardless of where they originated, I think it's pretty darn cool, like seal people.
Yeah, I've never even heard of them, so it's really cool to know that this is something that obviously 100% exists and we should go visit.
The seal people?
Yeah, I want to meet a seal person.
I just want to meet a seal, period.
I'd be okay with that too.
Not the singer.
I would... It would be kind of cool. He's supposed to be a really nice guy, I think. But I would talk... If I meet a seal, I'm going to talk to them like they're a Selkie. I'm going to be like, look, I know what you are, and it's totally okay. I approve of your lifestyle.
That'd be kind of cute.
And then if like a super hot dude or chick shows up, I'm going to be like, oh my God, are you Sealy McSealerton, the seal I met?
Oh my, you're such a dickhead.
And they'll be like, da 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 da.
Oh my God. I don't know.
I can't believe you've never heard that song.
I don't even know what you're saying right now.
Okay, well, that's a fun time. So thank you so much for the information on our seal friend folk.
Thanks.
I'm going to move on into my topic this week. And this week, I let the wonderful spooky friends pick my topic. I put up 6 options, and like I mentioned on the last podcast, I posted those to the Facebook group. And if you were using the Facebook app, different devices did not let you see all 6 options that were put up there. You have to click like see more, and sometimes it didn't work. Several of you during the live show said that that's exactly what happened to you as well. So 2 of those options received very little votes, but that's okay. We received far and away over 100. I think there was almost 200 votes on this thing. And the winner was spontaneous human combustion, and it wasn't even close.
And just to let you guys know, this was like a taste of the Patreon life. So we are going to continue to put polls up on Patreon for our lovely patrons to vote.
And I do mention that later on in my script that I'll probably be doing this through the holidays, maybe every other show. I'll be asking the people of Patreon or the patrons to pick my topic, and I'll be putting some stuff up there that I'm deciding between because it's fun for you guys and it actually really does help us out. So I'd also like to point out that this topic was actually requested a while back by my cousin,
Chrissy.
So I shall dedicate this to Chrissy, or as she's also known, Yolanda Squirrel Tree. So
I don't know why.
I don't either. What is spontaneous human combustion? Basically, it's a person randomly setting on fire without any source, hence the spontaneous part. And it's always sounded to me like it's a way to explain the loser in a real-life wizard battle. I've always just assumed that like spontaneous human combustion is proof that wizards exist, or sorcerers, or whatever they want to be called, warlocks, mages. And this is like what happens to the person who loses is they get Avada Kedavra and they just melt down. And whatever's left over is like evidence that that battle took place.
So many wizard pun like references.
Yeah. It's obviously something that sounds fake. And I think a lot of people to a certain extent are not sure if this is real or not. So let me just say it is real. It is something that happens. The only part that's debated is the spontaneous part. And it's been talked about in medical journals dating back as early as the 1700s, and the theory of it was first put forward in 1641, so almost 400 years ago, by a guy named Thomas Bartholin. And I am certain that it was happening before that. People just probably decided to blame it on witchcraft or wizards or fairies or some shit. And you know, you never know. They could have been right. But what we know of it now is what's been talked about after it's been studied by science, because it was something that was happening enough where these cases were all connected and they seemed to have no source for a person just burning up. And everyone was just like, WTF, so what the hell is going on? So for those of you that voted for this topic, I figure that you're probably into this for two specific reasons. You either want to know if you're at risk of spontaneously combusting, or you want to hear about some crazy cases, or both. So I've done both of those things. I've covered both of those things for this topic. So let me give you some background about the medical aspect of it and whether or not you're most likely going to burst into flames. So to start, when spontaneous human combustion was first discussed by the medical community, they're trying to find like a common cause between multiple cases, or just like a link between these victims to try and get an idea of not just what was causing it, but who could be at risk. And one of the things that was believed at the time to be a contributing factor was the abuse of alcohol. There was a string of victims that were said to be chronic alcoholics. So as a side note to those listeners out there who are worried that you're going to spontaneously combust, you probably are, because I imagine you're all alcoholics. So
that's rude.
I'm just kidding. Like, a lot of the things that they said back then weren't exactly true, and they weren't exactly the cause of spontaneous human combustion, and they were just simply educated guesses. And these are the two common factors from an article that was published in 1823. This is 100% real. And this is what was stated as being the two most common causes, these two things combined. The victims were usually chronic alcoholics, and they were usually elderly females. So some people's grandparents, or grandmothers specifically, were out there getting shit-faced all the time. They were apparently just raging drunks. And the most common results of spontaneous human combustion, according to this medical journal, is a few things. First of all, the hands and the feet would usually fall off, so they'd just remain intact.
That's fucked.
So you'd find, all this stuff, and you'd find hands and feet completely intact. And we'll talk about that in a little while. The fire had caused very little damage to combustible things in contact with the body, which to me is bizarre. It's like if you were sitting in a chair and you burned up, the chair would suffer very little damage. And in some cases that's true. In some other cases that I will bring up, that is not true. But what is known is that typically, like, you would imagine if a human being burst into flames violently enough where they would burn into ash, it would burn the whole house down. But typically in these cases, it's just the spot that they were on. In a lot of cases, like, not a lot of damage is done to the floor. So we're going to get into that stuff a little bit later on. The spot where this would take place would have greasy and foul-smelling ashes left behind. So it's like
the fat in your body.
Yeah, it's like the remnants of what's left over from your body mixed up with the ashes on the ground. So it's a nasty fucking grease stain that you're never going to get out of your carpet. So
funny thing, my sister actually went on a drive along, like a ride along with some CSI at one point, and she was actually in where they collect all the evidence, even the like clothes from bodies they've found. And she said like they were telling her that it's like really greasy and thick when a body like decomposes, and it's just all the fat from your body that just collects. And I was just like, oh,
I hope you all are eating right now and just biting into something like a big turkey leg right now.
Yeah, someone collects that and puts it in a bag and puts it, it's so gross.
That is very gross, but they are well paid, I hope. So the main argument that is had here is whether or not there's an actual ignition source behind this. That's the big thing. Like,
it's the remix to Ignition.
I hate you so much.
Hot and fresh out the kitchen.
You've never heard of Seal, but you know that?
Everyone knows that.
Yeah, I know that because of Chappelle, because of the R. Kelly thing. So the R. Kelly video that he did, which was
I
like
think you need to
that.
shake your tail feather and keep reading.
Okay.
That's another reference.
I hate you so much. Even if there is an actual ignition source, it's still incredibly bizarre that a body will burst into flame and basically act as like the biggest, grossest candle and somehow doesn't damage much of the things around it. So after all these conclusions were drawn about the supposed causes, the thing that was most attributed to spontaneous human combustion wasn't the fact that most of the victims were elderly, it was alcohol. They basically attributed it to alcoholism. And they started telling people, and it became known that if you were an alcoholic, you could just burst into flames, which I'm sure at some
because
point
you're going to hell.
was used by people who were like, yeah, you're going to go to hell. Like people who drink too much alcohol burst into flames. Did you hear about Mary? She had a glass of wine and poof, she was gone. So it's like, you don't know exactly whether or not they believe this because it was like something that seemed like a common thread, or if they just wanted to use this to try and dissuade people from living that life. But as time went on, more people would study spontaneous human combustion as it kept happening in an attempt to uncover like what the hell was going on. And there were these two guys named Joel Nickel and John F. Fisher who decided to do a study on cases across 3 centuries. And this took place during the 1980s. So Joe was a science investigator, and just reading that, it made me think of like, it must come with a really sweet badge that's probably in the shape of like an atom. And John was a forensic analyst. And they found that a lot of cases had been improperly investigated back when they took place, even leading up into like the 1980s. So they started going back through each case one by one and looking for common threads and like actual proof of what the hell happened. And basically they would show that people would show up to these scenes, find a charred human corpse, and they'd be like, yo dogs, like this is that spontaneous human combustion I keep hearing about, open and shut case. And that would be that. Like they wouldn't do a whole lot of evidence gathering. They wouldn't do a lot of research into what it was. They'd do enough to find out that it wasn't foul play. No one had been murdered. They were alone, and they'd be like, spontaneous human combustion, just stamp it. Do you have that stamp? Yeah, just put that on there. And they wouldn't include important pertinent information in their reports. So in a lot of cases, the person was alone, and it was not attributed to arson or homicide. But the idea that these people drank a lot, and because of that they burst into flames, was lacking in development. Like they literally just looked at this theory that had been around since like the 1700s, 1800s, and were like, that doesn't hold water. Like that kind of sounds like bullshit. Because like, let's be real, it was. And through the investigation of the locations, they started to recreate what the sites looked like when the incidents took place. Starting with more recent events, they could do that easier because like the documentation was better. But when they started doing stuff that's like 3 centuries old, they had to figure out exactly like what the orientation of the room was. That's a little bit harder. But what they started discovering is there seemed to be consistent evidence that these people burning up were victims of accidents and not something spontaneous. And that said, there's definitely human combustion going on. So this study wasn't all about debunking. They realized that the fuel wasn't clothing or bedding or chairs or the floors or anything like that. It was literally like something would happen, some bizarre accident would happen, and that would contribute to the start of a fire. But what was happening to these people wasn't a result of wearing anything like that. The idea that victims of like spontaneous human combustion were only old women was circumstantial, and it was believed at this point that it was just basically total bullshit. Like, and over the frequency, or over the 3 centuries that followed after they thought about that, like this was happening to the elderly in general, not just elderly women. So that was something that they decided was like kind of true. So that's one thing I will tell you about spontaneous human combustion before I go forward, is that it's mostly elderly people that this happens to. And they began to form the theory that spontaneous human combustion, being mostly elderly folks, they were mostly heavy-set folks. And that's one of the things that my cousin said, like, I heard that it only happens to people that are heavy. And that is not true. They're more susceptible, and I'm going to tell you why. And things would happen to these folks that were known to either be clumsy, unlucky, or drunk, or a combination of all 3. And it's believed that they found themselves getting close to an ignition source. That said, the phenomena that would happen is basically there would be like a flash heat source, like something would violently rupture their skin, you know? Like, don't think of like a cigarette being put out on an arm, although
like
people say...
Like an arc flash from an electric box?
Something like that, something very, very hot. Or like if you have a box of matches in your pocket and they all light up at once, like that would do it. But it ruptures your skin and gets directly to your fat cells. And the fat cells are the source of this intense fire. So, I mean, you're not elderly, so I think you're going to be okay. And you don't drink that often. So what essentially would happen is their fat sources...
I got a whole bottle of sangria downstairs that says otherwise.
Okay.
Well, I guess it's full.
Yeah, you've been doing pretty well with that. But their fat cells were basically the fuel. And it would cause them to just suddenly and violently erupt into flames. And one thing that they noticed that supported this being the cause of spontaneous human combustion was that in these situations where a victim was near or on types of materials that would like retain things and burn slowly, they would find evidence that they were retaining melted fat. So this is a really gross picture. So let me paint it for you. Basically, they'd start on fire And it would be violent because it would be like a ruptured fat cell that would be the source of this, and it would start spreading throughout the body. So they'd have melted liquid fat dripping into whatever they were on, whether it's like a bed or a chair or on the floor, on carpet or whatever. And if it was something that,
gross.
I know, if it didn't happen, like if it didn't burn right away on the floor, it would keep secreting like fatty oils and more fat. And it's literally like they were basically being turned into candles. And they named this the wick or candle effect. So like if someone was in a specific type of situation where they were sitting on something or near something that could do this, the damage would be substantial. And you'd only find like ashes and body parts. But if they're like in the middle of a room on just a hardwood floor, most of the time you'd find like some charred remains where it looks like someone burned, but they're not just a giant pile of ash, which is like a picture I think everyone associates with spontaneous human combustion.
What if the guy's name was John? Then would be the John Wick effect, because that shit is lit.
I hate you so much. What's funny is when I first wrote that, I was like, do I want to do a John Wick joke? And I was like, no, I'll pass on that. And then, of course, you come through in the clutch and decide to do one of yourself. But remember I said that the theory was first put forward in 1641? That's because there was a case that had a guy named Thomas Bartholin to investigate
I thought
it.
you were going to say John Wick.
No, John Wick was not associated with spontaneous human combustion. He's associated with spontaneous human death, because that dude is a whirlwind of chaos. Anyways.
He's a wizard.
I hate you so much. If he was, they'd be spontaneously human combusting. But as a side note, this Thomas Bartholin guy who developed a theory of SHC, or spontaneous human combustion, he wasn't just some random dude they picked to investigate a weird death. He was a doctor and a mathematician, so he was brilliant. And there was, no joke, this is 100% true, there was an Italian knight by the name of Polonus Forstius, and one night, I spelled that with a K. Could you hear it?
Why?
What do you mean, why?
Why'd you spell it with a K?
It was a pun.
Oh.
Whew, that's the sound of it going over Robin's head. But anyways, one night Polonus was hanging out at his parents' house, which is something apparently that knights do. And it's unknown if it was a good visit or a bad visit, but I would guess the latter. And the reason I guess this is because old Polonus was getting hammered. And you might ask, how hammered? Well, at one point in the night, he began to belch fire. And like, yeah.
He was a dragon.
You heard that right. I thought it was so funny too, because it's like he's a knight and he's belching fire like a dragon.
The irony.
So it said that he started belching fire like a goddamn dragon, and the phenomenon lasted for a short while, and then directly afterwards, he burst into flames.
Well, he's breathing fire.
Yeah, so he's obviously combusting and it's coming out of his throat, and his parents were like, what the hell just happened? And this is why the theory was developed, as they never found a reason or an ignition source, and his belches like shouldn't have ignited one way or the other. So it's like, it makes no sense why that happened or why he burned up. And that's where spontaneous human combustion came from. And although it's quite an odd story and it's an old story, explanations to what happened are purely speculative at this point. Like, I would like to suggest that he was setting his farts on fire to impress his parents, because that's obviously what knights do.
Then why would it come out of his mouth?
Well, like one, it went up the old gas line and blew up at the source and just came out all ends. And it probably was looking crazier because it came out of his mouth, and they're like, that's not supposed to happen. It's supposed to come out of the other end. But who knows? And a more recent-ish incident took place on December 4th of 1966. I'm going to start getting into some examples now. A man named John Irving Bentley, who was a retired physician at the ripe old age of 92, was a victim. He got up in the middle of the night to, and they think, as we all do from time to time, take a leak. Not dance to death, no.
It's Buffy reference.
Oh yeah. But
What's
I mean,
more with feeling?
I hate you so much. I mean, it was probably a leak. It possibly could have been a deuce. No one knows. Investigators still wonder to this day. But the following morning, after this guy woke up in the middle of the night, for whatever reason, a meter reader named Don Gosnell entered Doc's house to, you guessed it, read his meter. And as a side note, he had his permission.
Sounds dirty.
I hate you so much. Doc was 92. I said read his meter, not check his oil. Like, you're a quart low. But
that's way worse. Okay.
So he had permission. Doc's 92. Doc's old. He's like, just come into the fucking house, go in the basement and read my meter. So he's in there. He goes in the basement and he's reading this meter, and then he's like, what smells blue? And I say that as a joke, but seriously, he smelled something odd that he described as, quote, somewhat sweet, like starting up a new oil-burning central heating system. And he looked around the basement like any nosy asshole would do, and he found a pile of ash. And it said that the pile of ash he discovered was 35 centimeters high. And for those of you who don't know how tall that is for inches, it's almost 14 inches of ash. So imagine finding in a basement a pile of ash that is over a foot tall. You'd be like, where the hell did this come from? So he looked around on the floor and he noticed the floor that the ash was sitting on was unscathed. There was nothing wrong with the floor. It had just had a pile of ash on it. And it's just super bizarre, right? And I told you, the doctor was going to the bathroom. So at this point, he looked around and was like, where the hell did this come from? And then he finally looked up and he saw a hole in the ceiling above him. And he went upstairs to investigate. And I would like to think that at this point, he's calling out for Doc during this time to make sure he's okay and, to let him know he's wandering around his house. And then he entered this bathroom to find charred remains of the doctor laying on the floor. And the floor was ruined.
Okay, so there was a hole in the floor, but he was still able to be lying on the floor?
He was in... No, okay. So this guy was in the basement, and he found piles of ash, saw a hole in the ceiling. He went upstairs, found a hole in the floor, and he found the remains. And I'll get to what the remains actually are here.
Okay.
So the only thing that remained of Doc was... What?
The only thing that remained.
Oh, I get it now. Was his lower half of his right leg. That is it. And that's what made this case so famous. Is someone took a picture of this. It's just like a charred up wall and a charred up floor. The ashes were all downstairs. And then there's just a half of a human leg. And no bullshit, the picture exists online. It still has the slipper on his foot.
That's weird.
Yeah, so everyone was just like, what the hell happened? So when this happened, investigators took this photo. It eventually gets published in newspapers and magazines, and this led to many people starting to talk about spontaneous human combustion in the 60s as something that had to be real. And critics of spontaneous human combustion stated that the man was known to smoke a pipe, and he must have ignited himself with it while trying to light it. So again, this is the debate that it's not spontaneous, but it is human combustion.
Well, he was in the restroom. Maybe he was trying to take a poop. And he tooted, and it set on fire.
How would it set on fire on a toilet, though?
Because of the pipe.
Well, this is the thing. So I looked into the details of this case and what they found in this guy's house. And his pipe was found by his bedstand. So they determined that wasn't the cause of it.
All right.
So the theory that's most popular with most people is that he must have been trying to light his pipe in bed in the middle of the night and drop some cinders onto himself. And it said that most people who smoke pipes carry matches in their pocket, and maybe he was wearing pajamas that had matches in the pocket, and that got lit, and it just ignited. And anyone who's seen a pack of matches go up, they go up quick, And that they think he ran to the bathroom to put himself out to use basically the toilet water. And it's supported by evidence that shows the remains of what people aren't exactly sure next to the toilet, but some people believe this to be a water pitcher that shattered, and that maybe he grabbed a water pitcher, I don't know where the hell from, to run into the bathroom to get water out of the toilet to throw on himself.
He couldn't have just turned the shower on.
See, that's what I thought, but maybe this is a powder room, and it's not like the bathroom in his bedroom or anything. But it's just bizarre. This happened. It was in the 1960s, and it's just another case of spontaneous human combustion that may or may not be spontaneous. And the older you are, the more prone you are to accidents, but it's just really weird to think if you have a flash fire on your body and it catches a fat source, you could just burst into fucking flames. So, especially with all the fucking Samsung phones that were blowing up, I'm shocked that no one was just charred to ash when that shit was happening. One really bizarre case is that of a lady named Jeanette Kazmierzak. I think I said that right. And this case took place in the 1970s, so the next decade. Her husband disappeared. And she called the fuzz and was like, yo, my balls and chain have gone missing. Someone help me find them. And they searched, and they could not find this lady's husband. And they looked for days, and they told her, we don't know where he went. Maybe he just left. So he had, for all intents and purposes, vanished. And a few days after this, she let her son go play with some friends and was alone in her home. And a neighbor came over to her apartment to check on how she was doing, and her neighbor discovered a giant pile of ash, soot, and melted fat in the house. The floor beneath it was charred, and the wall it had rested against was also charred, and all that was left to identify the body were the legs from the knees down.
How does she not find that in her house?
It was her. It wasn't the husband. She had burst into flames.
Oh.
The husband remained missing. So this one was called Two Disappearances on the website I saw it on. Then I looked more into it, and I was like, wow, they never found this guy. So to me, as a side note, that's a straight up warlock right there who decided to take off, came back when someone was looking for him, and he set his wife on fire. So that was clearly a spell that he cast, because that is just some bizarre shit. And
It's a fireball.
I think it was probably fireball. It could have been frostfire. Who knows? That's
Magic
the mage
missile.
in me. So last but not least, the most recent case I found of spontaneous human combustion comes from Ireland in the year 2010, so only 8 years ago.
Wow.
A Dr. Ciaran McLaughlin, I think I said his first name right, pretty sure I nailed his last name, listed spontaneous human combustion as the cause of death to a man named Michael Faherty. Faherty was 76 at the time of his death. He was found in his sitting room, and, well, I mean, what was left of him, the remains was found. They said that he was lying on his back. The room did contain an open fireplace, but the authorities that investigated the scene ruled it out as the source of combustion and stated that it is in no way linked to his death. And they went over this case a buttload. And the coroner stated, quote, and this is a quote, after I think he almost took a year investigating this case to determine a cause of death before he put spontaneous human combustion. And this is what he stated. This fire was thoroughly investigated, and I'm left with the conclusion that this fits into the category of spontaneous human combustion because there is no adequate explanation. So it's just like, it couldn't have been anything else. And the sitting room had no evidence of fire damaging anything within it except the floor underneath where the corpse was found and the ceiling directly above it. And this one seems highly dubious to me because, like, there's an open fireplace right by the body, you know? But the investigators say that there's no trace of any accelerant whatsoever. They're not sure where the source of ignition was, and they determined he was alone. That's the only reason that they don't suspect foul play. And I can't confirm this because I was unable to locate the coroner's report specifically, but it appears by the details I could find all over the internet that the fireplace that was nearby wasn't actually used or active when this would have taken place. So skeptics still state that there must have been some form of combustion that was like incinerated as the blaze raged through the guy's body. Like, he must have had a pack of matches on him or something like that for some reason that he struck and fucked up and they all just burnt up. And for whatever reason, like, and that's the other thing too, the skeptics think like, well, maybe there was a fire that was burning down. There was a tiny ember and that was the source. And by the time the folks showed up, they're like, that fire died before he did. So it doesn't make any sense.
That's hilarious.
They have no idea. And that was 2010. So with all the ways that we can investigate a person's death, and 8 years ago, people are still calling something spontaneous human combustion. Or he lost a wizard battle, and that's what happened. So, I don't know. Any wizards out there, please let us know if Avada Kedavra actually burst you into flames or if that's how it works.
No, there's another spell for that.
There's got to be. It could be like Sectum Sempra, but I think that one just breaks your bones.
No, everyone knows that one's not fire.
Yes, I don't know. So I'm not a wizard. That's why we need help from you folks. But anyways, dear listeners, that is spontaneous human combustion. And thank you to everyone who voted in the poll. I'm going to be looking for some more help in picking topics throughout the holidays, so keep an eye on Patreon for more polls, possibly for episode 52. And I don't think we celebrated properly. This is our 50th episode. So we've
Celebratory.
We've gone 50 full episodes, but I think the biggest celebration...
You didn't make the cheering sounds.
Oh, yeah. My bad. The biggest celebration should be episode 52, because that will be the 1 year mark. That'll be the 1 year we've gone through when we first started doing this thing for funsies, not thinking anyone was going to listen to it, and then all you wonderful folks started.
Yeah, you guys are absolutely amazing.
I was checking our numbers the other day, and I was really looking to see how many countries we've been downloaded in, just to see. And it's something that I check periodically, and I have to compare numbers between like downloads on Spotify and regular downloads from like any other podcasting source because they're separated for whatever reason. But we're over...
You gotta keep them separated.
I hate you so much. We're over 85 countries. We've been downloaded in 85 countries, and we've been doing this for 50 weeks. And we record out of a tiny office in our home, and it's an incredible experience to have been able to reach everyone that we have and interact with all you wonderful folks. And it's surreal. It really is.
It's very humbling too to see like how much you guys care, and it's just so cool.
There's people that make fan art of what we do, and it's just so crazy to me that someone would do that, and you guys do this and do it so well, and you guys actually genuinely care about the content we provide, and you seem to actually care about us as people. And it means a whole lot, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who's listened for the last 50 episodes, and hopefully you guys will listen to the next 50. So I think that's just about everything we have, unless I forgot anything else, just the normal sign-out stuff.
No, yeah.
So if you guys want to send us your personal stories, we call those homegrown horrors, you can reach out to storytime@scarish.com. You can also go to facebook.com/scarishpodcast and send us your stories there through the messenger. If you want to communicate something to us that is private and you do not want it to be shared, that is fine. We have no problem interacting with you. Multiple people have done it. It is 100% okay. If you are looking to get it shared and you want some instant feedback, you can go to the Scarish Spooky Friends group on our Facebook page and join that and post it there, and people will chat with you and talk to you about your experience. You can also go to our Discord, go to scarish.com, scroll down to the right-hand side, it says join us on Discord, click that. You can also message us on Instagram @ScarishPodcast or tweet at us @ScarishPod. And of course, we always have ways for you to donate. So Robin's going to tell you about those.
Oh, yeah. We have patreon.com/scarishpodcast. That's our monthly donation service where some tiers, I think, Badge of Honor tier and up, you actually get physical goodies every once in a while. I design all our stickers. So hopefully you guys like those, but we're always happy to have you guys join us, and we put some extra content on there for our lovely patrons, and you get early access and all this fun stuff. And then we have Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/scarishpodcast, and that is one-time donations, and all that stuff helps us upgrade our studio setup.
Indeed. And if you want to give us some live donations, you can watch us record the Storytime episodes every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you watch on twitch.tv/scarishpodcast, you can make live donations. You just click the donate button, or you can watch over on youtube.com/scarish. And I don't think the donations are set up there. You have to have like a ton of members and a ton of views before you can get partner status, before they even like let you take donations through YouTube. It's weird, but join us those nights because we do interact with folks after each story to see what you thought. And we talk about it a little bit that doesn't make the actual episode because that's just for the people who join us live. So if you have time, come and check that out. Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then next semester, the time is going to change because Robin's schedule will change. So we'll see what happens then, and maybe more of you can make it at a different time. But I think
and go to scarish.com. Down at the bottom, check out our store, our Etsy. So go to our Etsy store. We have some Scarish goodies on there.
There's a logo that says Robin's Kawaii Corner, and that is our store. So click that and check it out. I think that's just about everything that we have for this week. So Robin, why don't you do the sign up?
Keep on creeping on, and we'll see you guys later this week.
Bye.